Because I said so. Because I said so. Because I said so. Because I said so. Because I said so.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Because I Said So podcast, where we take those classic mom sayings and turn them into today's best conversations. I'm the daughter, Denim Nicole.
And I'm her mother, Laquesha, here to make sure she remembers where she got all of her wisdom.
So today's episode is actually the title of our podcast, which is Because I Said So.
Period. Because parenting a teenager is a whole new level of chaos. Today we're discussing curfews, party boundaries, and how to balance trust with keeping your kids safe. You know, there's always a reason behind every because I said so.
I know that's right. But listen, if there's a topic or a question that you guys want to ask us, feel free to DM us on any platform at The Biz Podcast. That is the BISS Podcast. And who knows, your question could be featured in our next episode. Hello. Oh, we want to hear your own Because I Said So moments. So DM us on any platform, guys.
All right, before we dive in, let me just say this. Every parent, every teen, and every family is different. What works for one household may not work for another, and that's okay. I'm sharing my experiences as a mom. And while I've been through a lot with my own kids, I certainly don't have all the answers. Parenting is a journey, and we're all learning as we go. So take what resonates with you and leave what doesn't. But always remember to trust your own instinct. At the end of the day, you know what's best for your child more than anyone else. This is just one mom's advice because I said so.
Exactly, mommy. So grab your snacks.
Or some coffee and relax, and let's dive in.
Because sometimes the best talks come with a little bit of motherly love. Enjoy the episode, guys.
Enjoy.
All right, so for the first segment, we have the curfew debate. So, mommy, what's a reasonable curfew for teens, and how do you decide what time is right, or how did you decide, the time for us?
It varied per child. I mean, my older two children actually are a little bit more introverted than you, Denim. So really, it didn't become a thing until you got more into your preteen, teenage years where I had to actually consider curfew. So I have to specifically more so talk to you in regards to that. So for you, because you were so social, a lot of your friends actually used to come to the house. So I got to know a lot of them ahead of time. So, I kind of first started with, of course, like when the street lights are coming on. As the sun is going down, you need to get home. And then as I grew more comfortable with whomever your friend group was, that's what allowed me to extend out your time depending on the night, depending on the day of the week. Did you have any homework, that sort of thing?
Honestly, when I think teens, I'm thinking like 13 to 17, 18, I guess. How do you decide what time is right? I feel like it just kind of comes with the age and the maturity. Mm-hmm. My mom was not really a helicopter parent. My mama, like she said, was very trustworthy of us, and I mean for good reason. I was pretty mature. Like everybody that knows me is like, oh yeah, she's so mature. So I feel like with that, I kind of did get a little bit more leeway. But let me be very clear. I was communicating with mom. Like anywhere I went, she knew. She had my location. Like I was never really sneaky because I didn't have to be. Like I trusted her with everything. I will say though, once they're at like the high school sophomore year, junior year mark, that curfew is going to just have to get later and later. Like 9th grade year, it could be 9 o'clock. 10th grade can be 10 o'clock. 11th grade, 11 o'clock,
Hold
and
on.
so on.
Hold on. Let me come in on this part. It's not, I would not say that this is an age thing, a school year thing. It is definitely based on the child. If that child has earned your trust to be out at certain hours, then I think, yes, you can consider that. If that child is doing what they're supposed to do in school and in their activities, then yes, perhaps you extend it. Because yours came and went depending on how you were doing in your classes, how your attitude was. All of those things are taken into consideration. So it's just not a gimme because you're a sophomore, junior, or a senior. it is a privilege, and I just want all kids to know that it is a privilege to have an extended curfew.
You know, Ma, you're right. That was definitely a privilege. But I'm going to go to our next question because we're talking about curfews. Should curfews be flexible depending on the situation, or is it important to have strict boundaries?
I definitely think depend on the situation, who's going to be there. So if it's an environment the parent may be familiar with, they may be, a little bit more loose. But of course, I think a lot of it is who's going to be there and what's going to be happening. I really didn't have a issue with you guys being honest with me on this one, so that also helped with the trust factor. So whether it is, this group of people is going to be here, this is what's going to be happening. I mean, all the way down to, is there alcohol that's going to be there? Right. How are you going to get to and fro? That sort of stuff. I believe the more information I had helped me better say how comfortable I was with you coming home at a certain hour. But like I said, I always had your location if I wanted to pop up.
I've honestly seen like two sides to this. Like I've seen a very strict parent and I've seen a very lenient parent. Too much of anything is bad, right? I think that if you are very strict as a parent, your child is going to become sneaky because you are blocking them from doing anything that that they really want to do. So they're going to start lying to you, just straight up. But if you're a very lenient parent, your child is going to end up parenting you. Like they're going to end up running over you. And you don't want that either. Like my mom is my best friend. However, this is still my mom. I know my boundaries. You know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah, I mean, she tried it, a few times, as she was growing up.
Mom,
by the time we got to your teenage years, we had that on lock pretty much. You knew what my boundaries were.
Yeah.
So for the most part, you knew what rules I had in place, and my rules were very simple, in general. I mean, some people may say they're hard, but I had high expectations of my kids. If you do what you're supposed to do, then generally I won't, push back against extracurricular activities that you're doing. So to each his own. And again, every parent knows their child and, has an idea of what it is they're trying to do with their child. I wanted to get balance. I wanted to keep an open relationship as far as communication with my children. So that's why I left things open for you guys to be comfortable to talk to me about anything. So we can get into that as we can keep going.
Well, I know you don't have any teens anymore, and you weren't really huge on curfews, I would say. But for somebody who is currently, trying to set that boundary with their teen, how do you handle situations where your teen misses a curfew, and what is the right consequence?
I definitely think if they miss the curfew, I mean, it depends. At that point, honestly, like anything like a spanking, as some people like to say, a whooping, to me would have happened earlier on. By the time we got into teenage years, that I'm done with that. So I feel like if I had not, if you don't have that fear in you and the respect by that time, then I'm not trying to struggle with you by the time you're in high school. So we had that part established. But for anyone who missed the curfew, the next time they're trying to go out, I won't be as lenient. That's one. It could also result in a punishment depending on how late we're talking. If we're talking like past an hour, and there was no reason behind it, then we're talking about a punishment, and possibly even something like their phone taken away. But simply if the child comes in and they're apologetic about the situation and if something occurred that would have delayed them, I would have expected some communication happening in between that time to let me know they were going to be late. But if they just, are running amok, then there's some consequences and repercussions.
So I'm going to go into this a little bit, but not go into it too much. I'm going to just say this, though. I don't have any kids. Let's start there. I don't have any kids, but I was a teen. I was a teen at some point. And I don't remember missing a curfew. However, when I did get a little boyfriend, I was kind of being a little sneaky, y'all. I was being a little sneaky, trying to go be fast, trying to go sleep over his house. And honestly, what I did with my mom, like, she knew.
Stress.
I had the location.
The stress.
She had my location, so like it was something I could like just sit here and lie about, and I wasn't going to. So I would say create a space for your child or your teen to start being more open to you. So for example, if your teen misses curfew, instead of being like, why were you home late? Da-da-da-da-da," like you're going up on them, like you're on 10. Let's start by asking them, why are you late? Like, what happened? There's plenty of times where I've been out at these parties and, y'all, it go down. Like, these people, things happen. Their friends pass out from over drinking or something else. So, like, sometimes it could really be something that happened. So I would just first off say, ask them, what happened. And just express to them that you care for their well-being. Like, that's why you're so upset about them missing curfew, because if you're missing a curfew, that means that you're not home on time. If you're not home on time, there's a reason why you're not home on time. You know what I'm saying? So normally that's something went wrong. So something does, go wrong. You want your child to be open enough and comfortable with you to be able to communicate that. So if they have, like I said, a friend passed out, a friend's too drunk, hey, mom, I got a friend, the one I went out with, she's a little drunk. I just want to take her home first, or just give me an extra 30 minutes. I got to, like, clean her up, like, something. Or can you come here and help me? Like,
She's obviously speaking from experience, but it can be anything, parents. I don't want you to scare all the parents. Like, it's not going to always be because somebody passed out. So parents, don't always think your kids are somewhere and they're delayed because their friend passed out. But it could be other things. It could be mode of transportation. Who knows? We've all, gotten overexcited at a party, and now you have to leave it, the good part or whatever has happened. So it could be many things. But for children, I just encourage you to continue communicating with your parents if you're going to be late.
Well, Mom, for the last question for this segment, I really want to know, when should teens start having more input in their curfew decisions?
They can make suggestions. If they feel some way about their current curfew, I feel like at any point they can make a suggestion and plead their case. Mm-hmm. So they could say, how well they've done in school. They can talk about what's, what they've done good, right? How they behave. They've always been respectful, who they're going with, if they have everything lined up as far as the details, how they're getting to and from. All those things help in pleading your case to extend your curfew. And then as you get older, if you've over time proven, it's like a credit report of sorts. So if you've proven over time that you're responsible, then, most parents will be open to considering. But, sometimes a parent will back off and they'll just say no, and it'll be because they said so. And believe me, they're saying that for what they think you need in regards to some sort of a safeguard. Mark it.
Yeah, Mom, I'm not gonna lie, you kind of just ate that up. I don't really have much to add to that, because you're right, it's not really an age thing. It's like how are they handling their responsibilities?
Mm-hmm.
What's their maturity level like? Have they been communicating with me? So I get that. I agree with Mom 100% on that.
There we go. All right, so that takes us to segment 2, where we're going to be discussing trust versus control and the balance of it. So for the first question, I'd like to ask Denim, how is it that I built trust where you felt comfortable telling me about your plans?
You were very open. I'm the baby of 3 on my mom's side. And I really want to say that I was the most curious out of my siblings. I would see things and come up with the craziest questions. But my mom never looked at me like crazy or said I was too young to ask the questions I was asking. She was just like, oh, okay, if she's asking this question, it's probably because it's something that she's interested in, she's heard of, something. So like, let me tell her so that she doesn't have to go digging for the answer somewhere else, from not like a reliable source. So something like sex, for example. I could, by the way, that's a whole other episode that we're gonna get into. But I just want to say, like, my mom was very open. I didn't have to really go look up things. I could just talk to her about it, So, yeah, my mom was very, very open. What about you? Do you think that like anything else that I
Yeah,
missed?
I think well that's from your side. Now, parents, I will say that this is some of these items are hard to swallow. I felt it was very important to not react when questions were asked to me. Um,
And
yeah,
she could have, y'all. I'm telling y'all.
Some of them were very out there questions, but she's right. I felt like if I don't answer them, then she's obviously curious about it, so she's heard something about it. So I felt the need to jump in there since she was coming to me to answer the question for her to the best of my ability and for what I felt was appropriate for whatever age she was at. So, I didn't really go outside of what her questions were. I kind of kept it very focused. If she wanted to expand, or we would go back and forth. That way, I can kind of get a feel for the information that she had, and then at that point, I would talk about it with her or give some guidance about it with her. And then because I knew as she got older, the topic would expand, but I feel like it wasn't for me to open the conversation up more just to give her more things to be, curious about. But I thought it was important to answer her questions. But it's not always hard to do. But I think it's important that you make your child feel safe when they're coming to you with something that they feel is important.
Yeah, it's not easy, parents. It's not. I really commend y'all. Mom, I commend you. You did amazing for the past 20-some years.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay, so my next question would be avoiding becoming a helicopter parent while being involved in your teen's life and how parents should go about doing that.
Okay, so I'm not gonna lie. Without saying too much, but saying too much, I have had friends who've had helicopter parents. And when the parents, even though they were trying to like control every bit about their kids' life because of some things that happened in their life, like it did the opposite effect almost. Like it's almost like my friend just like wanted to do it just because the parent was saying like not to in a sense. And like I know that parents, you guys experience so much and you try to protect us, but a lot of the time you have to let us touch the fire, touch the stove. Don't pop us, or just let them touch the stove so that they know it's hot. Things that you can protect, do that, but you can't protect them by trying to stop something that they want to do or that they're asking you, about. Like that's just not gonna.
And I think it does have to a lot of times have to do with basing it on what you've been through, or sometimes even seen. I became a mother when I was 19, so it was things that, of course, I'm privy to that you guys would be going through. So I felt I was a stickler for certain things that I did not want to have. So I communicated with you guys what it is I wanted from you. But I also gave you room to experience, right? I mean, you're going to experience love and falling in love. You're going to experience friendships and you're going to experience injustices. So
yeah,
I more so felt it was important for you all to build up your strength to advocate for yourself as you got older. So I felt, while there are times I came to your defense, I had to hear both sides of the story.
Yeah.
And then in, certain cases, I left it open to you guys. Is it something you want to handle? Is it something that you want me to step in with? Where I felt it was appropriate that I needed to step in, I did that. Otherwise, I encourage you all to advocate for yourself. Even in friendships, you have to speak up for yourself, because some people don't realize when they're taking advantage of you in a certain situation. Sometimes people are going through their own stuff, and you just never know what it is you are, what you're reacting to with friends,
Yeah.
what it is they're going through. So I try to keep an open conversation with that, but I try to let you guys have those relationships. I never wanted to hinder you, because all of you all were different. Like I said, like my older two were a little bit more introverted, and they had their like a small subset of friends. You were a bit more social, so you had a larger group of friends. So there were so many personalities there to deal with. And I don't want to jump in. It's like I jump in and say something, next day you guys would be back to the same thing. It's just
No,
something
I know, yeah.
you had to do. So I think
But no,
it's
mom, that's
important.
hold on. I want to piggyback off that. That's a really important thing. Like you know that I'm probably gonna have fake friends and I'm gonna have these fallouts, but you've never said, hey, don't have these friends because you're gonna have these fallouts, or
Yeah.
came in between and cut it off, or took my phone away, or said no for me going out to experience certain things with those at the time friends. But you knew it would happen, you know what I'm saying? But you still let me touch the fire. You still let me experience, which is very important.
Yeah, I mean, I think of course, it builds character. You have to learn how to deal with different personalities.
Yeah.
Again, these are your friends, so you have to learn. You guys have to learn each other. That's not something I'm going to do. I mean, I got to know them enough to know what to expect from each friend, and I think that part is important too, as far as helicopter parenting. If you're uncomfortable, I would say get to know your child's friends. That says a lot. It's like if you the most conservative is typically the more conservative side your kid can go to. The most free or liberal is the freest, unless your child is the freest one, of course. But I think that's getting to know your child. But I felt it was very important to know my children's friends. They were welcome to come over. A lot of times they would come to our house, and whether it was just at the end of the night, just to get some sleep, or just to hang out. I tried to leave the environment open for them, and parents could reach out to me if need be. But that was very important to me, because I understood the impact. As I was growing up, I understood the impact that friends had in my life as well. And I mean, between whether you want to say it's peer pressure or it's FOMO or whatever it is, you just need to know what's going on in your kid's life. And I don't know if knowing your kid's location is helicopter parenting, but I've always had my kid's location. To this day, I have my kid's location. But it is generally for our well-being is why we, share that sort of information. So, what do you think about that part, then?
About what, locations?
Yeah, about location sharing.
I think that parents should have locations, and honestly, if you really want to have the real debate, children need to have the parents' location as well.
Okay, so you don't think that parents having their kids' location is crossing the line?
Not at all, because most of the time, even look, y'all, teens, lock in with me real quick. You turn your location off because you're going to your little boo house. Girl, we know where you're going. We know where you're going. If your location's off, you're somewhere you're not supposed to be.
Absolutely. That's my first thought. If the location goes off, expect a phone call right after that location is turned off.
And my mom did it all the time. My mom literally has caught me again trying to be sneaky, trying to be fast at a little boy house, thinking I was in love, because I was honestly me unsharing it. I was just trying to avoid the conversation with her at that time, because my mom, she had my brother young, you know what I'm saying? So my mom has always preached to us about, that part, like, you know what I'm saying, about like living our lives and stuff like that. But y'all, you could not tell high school Denim Nathan. I got my little boo, and I just thought it was just to the moon from there. So, but really, with her having my location, when I stopped turning it off, I felt safer because if anything happened, she could get to me. Just know that. While y'all over here being sneaky. Oh my God, Mom, I have a story. Guys, I have a story. So this is actually, I think this is freshman year, Mom. This might be freshman or sophomore year, but I think it's freshman year. Freshman year, I was dating this guy. We're still cool, but I'm not gonna say his name. Mm-hmm. I was dating this guy, and he was like 2 grades above me. Whatever though. He lived like 20 some, no, maybe 30 minutes away. 20 to 30 some odd minutes away, and my mom told me not to go over there. She told me not to go to his house. Like, she said it. But still, at the time, this is my first little bookie in high school. Like, I thought, like, you know, I should still go. So, y'all, I'm heading there. I turn off my location. That's not even it, though, y'all. I'm there. I was there. I was chilling with him. We was doing whatever. I made it past that part, y'all. I'm literally about to head home. And what happens? My car battery goes out. My car will not turn on. I'm like, no. Because, again, I was successful. She hadn't seen that I was over there. I'm about to head back home. We're all good. No, y'all. My car won't turn on. So what did I have to do? I had to call my mom. And you could imagine.
What year was this? This had to be like.
Mom, I'll just say it. This when I was dating.
I know, but I'm trying to think. Who were you driving? My car?
Mine. I had the Jeep by this point. So this had to be sophomore year then.
This had to be like sophomore year.
Like 2019?
Yeah, this had to be sophomore year.
Yeah, so this is like 2019. Okay. Sophomore year. Yeah, but yes. My point, see what I'm saying though? Me being sneaky, couldn't turn my car on, had to call my mom still. So, not to say if y'all, do it, make sure that your car is working. But I'm just saying, y'all, don't do it. Just keep the location on. I know what y'all trying to do, but it's not doing that. It's just stupid. Just turn it on. That's it.
Right. Keep the location on. Keep it honest. Don't lose your parents' trust. Yeah, everything they're saying is really for your betterment. So of course we know the things that could happen. Denim always was just ripping and running, hanging out with friends anyway. So I tried to also slow that down. Like, why are you going all the way over there? And that's a whole other topic of conversation with these girls with cars and boyfriends with no cars, and the girls running across town to go get the guys.
We'll save one of the episode.
That's a whole other conversation. But yeah, keep your locations on.
Period. All right, y'all. Welcome to segment 3, our last segment. We're gonna talk about parenting styles and finding what works. Okay. So, Mom, what are the signs that your teen or your child is ready for more freedom, and how do you give them that, or how did you give us that while still keeping us safe outside of having our location? The signs that we're ready for more freedom.
Well, one would be that they actually want the freedom, because some kids are just comfortable at home. So one would be, a kid is social and they're asking if they can spend time with friends outside of the home. Mm-hmm. So, initially you were younger, you used to always have friends over, you guys would cook and do little videos and all that kind of stuff. And then it became you wanting to go over their home. So then it pretty much kind of grows from there. They go over your friend's house. And then what is the second part of that? How do I determine?
How do you give that to us while still keeping us safe? Like, give us the freedom, but keeping us safe.
Okay, so the safe part is not ever really a guarantee. I mean, it's not even a guarantee sometimes at home that your kid is going to always be safe, you know, especially with things like the internet. But again, it is getting to know who they're going to be around. It is being informed about what environment they're going to be in. It is keeping communication as to what your child likes to participate in, whether that's just parties, do they drink, do they smoke? Like, all that stuff is important to know about your child, and everything at the end of the day goes back to communication and trust, both ways, that your child trusts you and that you trust your child. So for me, because you were honest. Now, sometimes you were post honest. So like the thing when you're trying to sneak somewhere, whatever.
Mom, I'm at so-and-so's house. My car broke down.
Exactly. So a lot of times with you in the beginning, it was kind of like a post honesty. So you would just you would be somewhere and I could see your location, and then you would come home and then you would share, where you were, who you were with. So you were kind of like post honest in those situations. But I was happy that at least you were open, so that at least educated me as to what it is, the things that you do when you're gone. So communication, I would prefer a more upfront conversation, so that, we can chat it up before you head out so that you're ready for any defense you're going to have to put up or offense and that sort of thing. But, it is what it is. Sometimes we were tackling things on the back end for the next experience, but we built that up.
So Mama, when should parents take a step back and start to trust their teen or their child to start making decisions on their own?
When the teen should start making decisions on their own?
Yeah.
See, this is a trick right here, because the thing is to make the teen feel like they're making decisions on their own. So once again, there are certain things that they've shown you. So once they're trustworthy, once they're doing what they're supposed to do in regards to their schoolwork, they're doing their best to add their extracurricular activities. I think that is where during that entire time, you guys are having these discussions back and forth. So you're able to kind of form what it is your teen wants in life. So I think it's your job to try to guide them towards ultimately what they want. So if they're sharing certain interests, you should try to give them more exposure to that, whatever that thing is. And then you guys continue to have discussions. You need to be exposed to it, so you need to do research, and then you need to expose your child to it outside of what they don't know. So I feel like you guys are really making the decision together in a way. You are guiding. You're doing a lot of guiding during that time. So, when the child is sharing something, it's like, okay, does that make sense, right? Does that make sense for what it is you ultimately want in life? So it could be your child could say, I want to be a teacher. Okay, well, you also like to spend a lot of money, so how is this going to work with you on the teacher's salary doing that? That sort of thing. So it's just kind of guiding them. Like, of course you could make good money as a teacher, but it's not going to be necessarily a teacher's salary unless you have your own educational program, or unless you have passive income coming from somewhere.
Right.
But it's, it is, you guys just have to have a discussion. I feel like it's important for the child to get the vision for themselves. And then I feel it's important for you to help guide them and help shape that up a little bit more, so that they're able to achieve it.
So for you, in your eyes, what's the difference between strict parenting and setting healthy boundaries? Like, where's the line?
Well, strict parenting is having hard boundaries, and it is heavily what the parent says, right? The healthy one is consideration of your teen's growth, their desires, their needs, and having a communication so that you can then kind of consider things that are happening in their minds, in their hearts, in their bodies, that sort of thing. So you are taking input in from your teen in the case of the healthy side. On this more strict side, you really are not. It's really more so really because I said so, because I said so, really, very little explanation into why I say so.
Yeah, I know earlier I was talking about, the curfew thing when the teens miss their curfew and how parents could better communicate that, they just want their child to be safe at home on time. I think for this situation, a strict parent would be the one that's like, you being home late is wrong, you're wrong, don't do it again, go to bed. I think that's strict parenting. I think setting healthy boundaries would have looked like, again, why are you home late? Is everything okay? Okay, because your well-being is important to me. Moving forward, can you just call me before so that I know that you're going to be late, so I know when to expect you to be home? I just think that that's a way of, setting that healthy boundary. Like, they're home late, however, they're communicating. So now that's the boundary. You want them to, communicate when they should be home or when they're going to be home. So yeah,
I think it gets back to like what you said in regards to just kind of staying in communication, between the two. I think that helps set the healthy boundaries, because more so what we're saying is like you're talking about an instance when a child is out and then dealing with the repercussions of it. But if you knowing like your parent is strict versus open to at least hearing your thoughts or opinions on something about any topic, you'll know that. I mean, you would know that really growing up, right? That kid is going to say a child stays in the child's place. And while sometimes that's kind of a known thing, I think my children know about respect. There's some people who will kind of make that like a hyperbole in regards whenever they're saying that something is disrespectful in regards to a kid. It's like, it's not disrespectful for a kid to have an opinion. I feel like it's important that you give a child an outlet to express themselves. And then from there, you guys can have a healthy discussion in regards to it, and they can better understand you. But I think that some parents err in thinking that whenever their child has an opinion that's opposite of theirs, is disrespectful.
That's good, Mom. All right. And honestly, this was such a juicy topic, but we're going to wrap it up with this question. How do you handle, because before I say this question, I was raised with a single mom. My mom raised us on her own. Of course, when, maybe some boos here and there, but mainly she was, a single mama. So I really want to know, how did you handle like the disagreements between, co-parents, and like how, like, did that affect like how strict or how lenient you were?
Yeah. So okay. So your dad is different from your older sibling's dad. So when I was married to your dad, of course, he's the stepdad. So, there's a dynamic of co-parenting with their biological dad, my first husband, and then with your dad. The co-parenting part, my experience was that as time went on, there was less engagement there. But I feel like we share the same aspiration in regards to wanting the best for our children. Personally, in regards to how it is I parent, their dad did feel like, I was doing a good job, in regards to that, and he's expressed that to me, and that I've done a good job with them. In regards to the whole dynamic when there's another person involved with that, that gets a little bit more complex, because then you get into how do you share disciplinary roles, that sort of thing. And ultimately, what I think is important when you're dealing with a blended family, or for a man to come into a situation, my whole thing was, don't make me choose between you and my kids.
Yeah.
You know, other than that, you know, be the role, you can lead the family, but don't make me have to make that decision. And I expect every action to be balanced with some nurturing that goes, into that relationship.
Should step parents discipline their kids
I think that they should. I mean, I think that they should, but I think that
without
they should.
permission?
I think that should be a discussion that's made between the parent, the biological parent, the step parent, as you're going into this relationship, because I do feel that, especially, and it also depends on the age of the kid. Ultimately, there are some situations where just the biological parent should, right? That's just the thing. The step parent, they don't, they may not agree with how that action is happening, but if that family has not blended well, there's going to be some adverse effects dealing with the relationship between the children and the mother, as well as the step parent and the mother or father, if we're talking about a woman, right? Ultimately, a parent's goal. Well, what were you saying?
I was going to disagree. I don't think step parents should be allowed to discipline the child, which I know can be frustrating as a step parent, but as soon as a step parent tried to hit me with a belt, I'm going to quickly,
You're not my dad!
because that literally, that's a boundary in itself. Like, you are my step parent. I think that there's a step you need to take before you're trying to discipline me. I can see where if I was disrespectful to, let's say, somebody you were talking to, dating, or married, then I could see him talking to you and then you disciplining me. I can understand that. But if it was me and him in that room alone and he disciplined me, he whooped me or whatever, I just feel like that just opens up so many doors.
But you're talking. But I think you're just thinking about a step parent coming in and you're dealing with an older child. There are some step parents that come in when the kids are infants, right? So it's almost like they raise these children, right? They raise the children as well. So they feel as much of a parent as you. However, if you don't understand their disciplinary tactics ahead of time, yeah, that can be an issue, right? Because now when we get to the point of when we're talking about that becomes a thought for you, like, okay, wait a minute, and I'm really not even talking about physical discipline. I mean, that gets into a whole other discussion.
But no, I know. But when you are talking about discipline, period, and you are allowing them to discipline them, and again, you're on your end, mom. You're saying that it's okay without having a conversation.
No. I said a conversation needs to take place.
No. You said a conversation needs to be taking place before the family comes together. I'm saying after the family comes together, they've already talked about at the time what they would do and wouldn't do. Come on, people tell stories all the time. So they do that. Okay, cool. Yes, you can discipline my kids, but I'm not home. I just feel like this opens up doors to things that could just escalate, and it doesn't need to go that far.
I mean, that's a very specific thing. So I don't know that the discussion happened, but it's good that you bring that point up. So I don't know that the discussion happens okay, so what happens when I'm not at home versus it's just a general thing in regards to discipline, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a very important point, which is, yes, I've definitely had an issue with that in the past. And, I mean, it can get extremely serious to where, yes, you could be at that junction where you're choosing between your children and a man, or if it's the opposite of the man has to choose the woman or his children. I'm not depending on if you're talking about single mom or single dad, but yes, it is important to get as specific as you can get in regards to that. Ultimately, yeah, it's good for, I can't even say that. I was going to say it's good for their biological parents. I would say with older children, then yes, it ends up being a lot easier if it is the biological parent, because otherwise the other parent is going to come in looking like the big bad this or that. However,
Right.
I do believe that the children need to be respectful of whatever the situation is.
I agree.
And I think some men try to come in and they assume when they do some good things for the mom and, a couple of good things for the kids, that the kids are just going to gravitate towards them. And it does not always happen like that. And their presence is not always appreciated, either. So, coming in there, guns blazing is not going to help the situation. There's definitely some nurturing I feel should take place. Like, there has to be a balance. Like, you have to be involved in the kid's life. You have to be nurturing the kids. And I'm not just talking about buying them things. I'm talking about being involved, being present, having some sort of communication. All these things should happen before we even get to some part where we're talking about a discipline, of putting the kid on punishment, of taking the phone away. All those things. Like, there's some things that need to be established in regards to that step parent and the children, in regards to how the children feel about them.
Okay. That is the end of this segment. Okay, so we're going to do some real life scenarios for you guys. But before I start, I really, really, really want to say this, guys. Please share your own stories of like you parenting your kids, including like any curfew disasters or moments. And please DM it to us on the Biz Podcast. Me and Mom talk every day. So if we don't react in the episode, we'll definitely be reacting on FaceTime. So please send in your stories. We really want to know. All right, for the first scenario, Mom. Your teen asked to attend an all-night party for the first time. I'm assuming just like past 12 a.m. How do you approach the conversation, and what rules or boundaries would you set?
I would approach it. Well, I'll go through my questions. Okay, who's going? Who's driving? Will there be alcohol present? Will there be drugs present? Whose party is this? Who's hosting the party? So those would be my initial questions. My boundaries would be if there's going to be any vices there, like alcohol or drugs, that if you guys don't have a designated driver, that you need to Uber, and that if your designated driver changes their mind at the party, that you will either call me or that you will decide to Uber home and we'll get the car the next day.
Heard you. I would approach it, I think, honestly, very similar to you. Probably the same as you, honestly. Rule or boundary, yeah, that location just got to be on. That's
Location
going to be
got
my
to be on.
man. Yeah,
And
that's
I mean,
my
I tell
main
my
thing.
kids that, just like, look, if your location is unknown, look, don't expect me to be able to find you easily. So you just never know your situation. You could call something thinking, and it's happened before, where my son's tire went out on his car, and he didn't have his location on, and it's like, I don't know where you are. He's somewhere off the expressway. He can't exactly tell me where, that sort of thing. So, and I can't get him back on the phone. So just that kind of stuff. Just it just makes life a lot easier. And in the beginning, a parent might be all in your business trying to see where you are, but over time you kind of condition yourself like it's there. You don't need to look at it, so often, especially as you develop a sense of trust for your kids and that sort of thing. And that just is what it is.
So scenario 2. Your teen comes home after missing curfew and doesn't have a valid excuse. How do you handle the situation in a way that builds trust rather than pushing them away?
I typically am more of a, like, for instance, if it happened overnight, it's not something I would probably discuss at that moment when you walk through the door. It's not something I would have discussed. It was something that you would go to sleep, we would get up, and then we would have the conversation as to why were you late, and letting them know how it affects me. Because teens, you have to understand, whenever you are not in the house, curfew or no curfew, your parent is worried. So for you to then go beyond that point of me and my comfort and my rest, and knowing that you're safe, um, that is disrespectful, because I've allowed you to already have the privilege of going out, and you've taken an inch and made it a mile. You didn't have any thoughts in regards to my feelings. So that would be how I would explain that, and then I would let them know, like, well, what do you think that the repercussions should be for this? And depending on their answer, that someone might give a light one and say, oh, I just think that we will monitor it for next time. No, try again. And if you can't get to it, then I will let you know what I think that it should be. Whether, again, that is, not going somewhere for an extended amount of time, a decrease in phone privileges, no company over, whatever the need is in that situation, then I would lay down the law according to what I thought. If you came up with something reasonable, that would be up for consideration too, because then it would let me know that you have an understanding of how critical it was.
Nothing to add, but I will say because she really was a parent who she would not talk about it that moment or that night. It would be the next day. And I didn't even realize how important that was until just now, because her doing that, like, literally allowed some time for her to cool down, some time for me to cool down, or not. Okay, I probably wasn't cooling down.
Yeah,
she was probably cooling down. So her cooling down, me being able to breathe, like, okay, I'm not in trouble tonight. And then coming and having a conversation the next day is so important, because, when you talk from a place of anger, worry, fear,
fatigue,
sometimes fatigue, things don't come out how they should. We're all human. Parent, teen, child, all human. So, yeah, I would just say that that's very important. If you need some time in between disciplining or talking to your child, take the time. If you feel like you're not in control of your emotions at that point, don't do it. Because, girl, you could say some things with a loose tongue.
Or do some things.
All right. And our wrap-up question is, what's your best piece of advice for parents trying to balance freedom and safety when it comes to teens?
Again, it's going to be different for every parent, but I would say, take a look at your child in totality. When you say your child, what exactly does that mean? Knowing ideally what it is they can do, that they'll do around you, or what it is they'll do in circumstances. So, I would look at their complete report card when I'm considering freedoms they should have. And then in regards to safety and trying to balance giving them freedom and safety, I mean, sometimes you just have to let go. It's really not an easy way. You can make all the precautions, knowing their location, even knowing their friend group, knowing the parent who's going to be at the house. It doesn't mean that nothing will happen. All you can do is put all your different insurances in regards to safety, and pray on it. And it was a lot of prayerful nights, I would say, in my instance. So,
yeah. Oh, no.
Thank the Lord.
Well, yeah, amen that we was home safe, but sorry you had to be praying. As far as balancing freedom and safety, y'all coming close. I'm going to hold your hand when I say this. Please share that location. If y'all didn't hear anything or take anything from today, let it be to share that location. Y'all, the world is crazy, and parents are crazier, especially about their kids. So just please share locations. And also, like Mom said, y'all pray on it and just, let go. Honestly, if I thought about my mom going out every day and her safety, and if she's okay, I would send myself into probably a panic attack, because me and my mom, we're not even in the same city, the same state. I'm not in the same city or state as my siblings either. So knowing that she's out in another state, with me not there, my siblings not there, that literally freaks me out. Like, okay, if anything happens, I can't just drive there. I have to literally hop on a plane. So
Yeah.
with that, the praying that she mentioned, and the breathing, do that. Like, it is a game changer. It's life changing, and it really just allows you to be able to, I would say, be able to operate just better all in totality with everything. Like, you're not freaked out about everything, worried about everything. Like, just let it go. Take it day by day, minute by minute. That's all you can do in this crazy world, right?
Absolutely.
That was a good answer. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Well, guys, what an episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Remember, parenting is a journey, everyone, as I said before, and we're all here learning as we go. We hope you enjoyed our episode today.
If you like what you heard, follow us on all platforms at the BISS Podcast, and share this podcast with a new mommy, or maybe someone who just needs to hear this.
Hey, make sure you tune in every Wednesday for a new topic. And if your child wants to question your parenting, tell them,
please.
We'll see you all next week.
Bye, guys.